All right, we are live. Hey, everybody. We are live to talk about the Jim Comey indictment. It is 5:17 in the PMs here in Arizona, 8:17 Eastern Time. And I have to turn off my YouTubes. I'm going to go real quick over to the socials and post a link so people know that this is happening. So
Yeah.
while I'm gone, Mark
Yeah.
Allenbaugh, maybe do a song and dance.
Okay.
Tell a do some interesting statistical some things. I don't know,
Yeah.
but just hold on, hold the
Okay.
phone, okay?
I'll hold the phone, but hey, tag me, by the way.
I will.
Yeah. I put a little announcement out there. And while you're doing that, I'm going to check to see what's going on out in the field right now with Comey. We should talk about his attorney too, who's going to be representing him,
Yeah,
Fitzgerald.
yeah, that name rings a bell.
Yeah. So I think he was a former prosecutor himself.
I can't remember what he did. It was he was Blagojevich's prosecutor, I think.
Yeah, he was the USA out of the Northern District of Illinois. And he was also special counsel in charge of the investigation of Valerie Plame, hmm, which led to the prosecution and conviction of Scooter Libby.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. All right.
yeah. He's not very, surprised he made it this far in life. He received degrees in economics and mathematics from Amherst College, and he was something called Phi Beta Kappa, and then he got his JD from some second-rate Boston school called Harvard. So yeah, no, he has the bona fides, and now he's Comey's attorney out there in the Rocket Dock, Eastern District of Virginia.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we should talk about him too.
All right. I'm going to go to the. Are you on Twitter?
I am on Twitter. I don't go
Okay.
there very often anymore, but I am.
All right. So I can tag you on the twits
Yeah,
on the X.
on the X. I don't even know. See, what's my handle? I've been there. Yeah, it's just Mark Allenbaugh, one word, at Mark Allenbaugh.
Okay.
Uh,
Kerr. Let's see here. Yeah, that's me. Okay. Just I posted it on the LinkedIn's and now I'm posting it on the at Mark Allenbaugh.
are you posting it on the Facebooks?
Yeah, I'm gonna post it on the
Okay.
Facebook. Uh-huh. Posted it on the Twitters. And if nothing else, my mom and dad will watch. They're 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 my number one fans.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Hello, mom and dad,
Uh,
if you're watching or when you do. Yeah, you got a great son with a great taste in tequila.
Oh, that's so sweet that you
We'll
would
have to,
say that.
yeah, have to make you an honorary Mexican.
Yay, okay. So let's see, just tagged you and one last little thing. Okay, so I put it on the Facebooks, I put it on the LinkedIn's, and I put it on the X's.
Excelente. Okay, perfecto. Okay, there we go. All ready to go. Okay.
All right. All right, so I've now put it places, and
Yeah.
so I think that we can we
Get
can
going.
we can get going here. So
Okay.
let me do my little let me do my little introduction in 5 and 4. Just kidding. I don't do that. But anyway, hey everybody. Doug Passon and Mark Allenbaugh coming to you live. I don't get to say live that often, so it's very exciting when I can say live, and I like to say it with a lot of vim and vigor. Coming to you live. I'm not in Studio 3553 because it's Friday night, and which makes us total losers because
Yeah.
we're here together. It's 5:23 in Arizona and 8:23 in Eastern Time where Mark Allenbaugh is. And you could go to the news right now, any channel, and listen to the talking heads pontificate about the recent development of James Comey, former FBI director, former U.S. attorney, being indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia. It is the Eastern District, right?
Yes. Eastern just
Okay.
the rocket
You,
docket.
the rocket docket, you could go there, but they're not going to tell you the things that we're going to tell you because by and large, they don't know what they're talking about. And I don't like to talk bad about people, but have you noticed the last 2 days that Andrew Weissman has been on and he's wearing the same goofy ass turtleneck? These
No,
are
I haven't noticed
all,
that.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to make fun of his clothes, but it is a goofy ass turtleneck. Um, But what I will say is this, they're all former prosecutors,
Yeah.
which that's important. That's an important perspective. This is the defense perspective.
Yeah.
I have not heard one person talk about guidelines or what the potential sentencing
Right.
could be if
Right.
heaven forbid this ever makes its way to a conviction.
Yeah.
And that's something we really should be talking about because
Exactly. Yeah.
and my first blush at this indictment was that's just a false statement case. The guidelines probably aren't going to be, that significant. But, we have some twists and turns in store for you on that too.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
we'll give our 2 cents along the way. But since this is a Friday night,
Yeah.
I do feel compelled to bring some tequila into this picture.
Muy
Now,
bien.
you're going to help me set this up, Mark, because we're scrambling to get ready for this live stream. And this small talk at the beginning is good. Maybe people actually come join us but while we're
Right.
doing this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. They get
I was
some of their
like,
own tequila. Yeah.
anybody who's ever listened to this podcast knows that A, I love tequila, and B, I love to bring tequila onto the podcast. And C, when I do, I love to make it thematic. I like to make the kind of tequila I'm sipping have some relevance to the topic at hand. So I was talking about this with Mark Allenbaugh, and you said, well, tell me what you said.
Well, it's been so, Comey's been indicted. Last night he gave a or he published some little speech of his just to tell all of us not to worry. Everything seems to be going to hell in a handbasket. But we should not. It is better for us to die on our feet, so to speak. I'm paraphrasing him, to die on our feet than to live on our knees. And we're not going to live on our knees. And that
Hmm.
reminded me that JD Vance had actually said the same thing about a week ago at Charlie Kirk's memorial service.
Oh, interesting.
And neither
Except
of these
JD
gentlemen,
Vance is living his whole life on his knees, but that's another
yeah.
story.
Well,
Sorry.
that's another story. That's another story. But
Okay, so JD said it. Go ahead.
so JD
Sorry.
said it, and so it's a popular phrase. It sounds real sexy, sounds really appropriate, especially for the moment, regardless of where you are in the political spectrum. It seems very useful. So I thought, it's just too bad that none of these guys are giving credit to where that came from, and that was the person who originated that phrase was, ironically, at least in JD Vance's case, and perhaps even in uh, James Comey's case, a leftist Mexican revolutionary from the beginning of last century named Emiliano Zapata, and he still has followers called the Zapatistas down in the southern region of Mexico. And his whole thing is he was fighting against a corrupt Mexican government and to try to overthrow it in the Mexican Revolution.
Oh
And
my
he also
gosh.
teamed up with somebody that's probably more well known to the gringos because this gentleman lived closer to uh, the U.S. at the time, called Pancho Villa.
Pancho Villa.
And Pancho Villa was his bro, and
Oh
they
my
fought
gosh.
they fought against the corrupt Mexican government, a dictator not too dissimilar to the one that we have in office right now.
Wow. I love that it's
And
that Zapata's a leftist because, there's been a lot of rhetoric about the left and being, evil, insane murderers and things like that. And I love that they're quoting, I love that JD is quoting
yeah,
a
JD's
leftist
quoting.
revolutionary.
Yes, yes.
He's probably a socialist and a communist and whatever other ist he can say. But so the Zapata reference and the connection to Pancho Villa just made it so obvious, so easy what my choice was today. But then I had an added bonus because so here's the deal. The pick for today is Siete Leguas. Now, Siete Leguas is is Spanish for seven leagues. This is the name of Pancho Villa's horse. And you can actually see on the label there's a
Oh
horse,
yeah.
and that is
Oh,
Pancho Villa's horse. This is a many generation tequila making family and honoring Pancho Villa and named for his horse Siete Leguas. Now, the other crazy thing about this I love Siete Leguas. It's one of my workhorse go-to tequilas. So good and so reasonably priced, but they just came out with their high proof. So what they call still strength. This
oh,
is
oh,
Siete Leguas 47.
wow.
What's 47?
Trump.
Trump is the 47th president of these
Yeah.
United States.
Well,
And I'm not
you're
suggesting
not
that
going to drink to him though.
I'm fucking absolutely not going to drink to him, and I'm certainly not suggesting that he had anything to do with the
Yeah.
Comey indictment. Uh, but I do think it's really a good, relevant tequila tie-in for tonight. So I am going to pour my first glass. I guess I will raise this toast to Jim Comey, who I've never been a big fan of Jim Comey.
No, me
Uh,
neither.
Jim Comey, in my opinion, cost Hillary Clinton the election with his
Well,
11th.
he kind of brought this on himself, I think.
One could certainly make a compelling case that but for his 11th hour
Yep.
announcement on the eve of the 2016 election,
Yeah.
that Hillary did really, really bad things and used really, really bad
Uh,
judgment, but didn't we weren't going to charge with a crime, didn't amount to a crime, but the damage was done. So
he stepped outside the orthodoxy, and
he
that was
really did. He really
yeah.
did. But that said, my heart goes out to him. I would never want to be on the receiving end of a federal indictment. I
Mm,
would never want to have, you know, my name versus United States of America.
yeah.
And, you know, this I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Trump
Yeah.
obviously would and does and will continue to
Well,
do
and Trump
so.
had that for a bit.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
on the receiving end too. So,
Yeah.
uh,
So, and
so
I'm sure lots of people go, "Did you raise your glass to Donald Trump when he got indicted?" And the answer is no, but don't hold it
yeah.
against me. My
Well,
politics are
yeah.
going to be irrelevant
Yeah.
for this conversation.
Right. And and one thing just in that regard, I think that is worth sorry, I think we should start this discussion with a reality check here. And a lot of the talking heads, especially on the left, you're a friend, the turtleneck guy, it kind of is a bit dismissive of this indictment. There's a lot of focus on and we'll talk about her, the new prosecutor, um, Hannigan, as being, just way ahead of her skis, a neophyte, no experience as a prosecutor and whatnot, but also that the indictment is very short and not very descriptive, and it's only 2 pages. To also just dismissing this as an obvious revenge prosecution by Trump, as if all of that is going to inevitably result in this indictment being dismissed. It's not. And that's what I think is there is a disservice out there when the talking heads are criticizing, even if the way that this indictment arose was through arguably illegitimate, and that's not really a correct term because this went through the legitimate process, a grand jury indicted and all this other stuff. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But this is really serious. This is not going to just go away because Trump hired some or appointed somebody that doesn't know what she's doing and just wrote off a two-page indictment as if that is it's going to automatically disappear. First of all, there are as you and I well know, there are many indictments that are very sparse. Not all
Right.
indictments are these big speaking indictments, and you and I
Right.
have seen a lot of indictments like this. Second of all, they did go through the correct process. She went to a grand jury, and she did get she went with 3 charges, and the grand jury indicted on 2. Though it's very rare that they issue a no bill on
Right.
any of the charges, and to have it split like this. And I went out and checked, and I could only find maybe a dozen cases over the last 20 years where there was not, I don't even think it was a dozen, where there was a split grand jury return
Hmm.
where they had indicted on some but not on others. 99% of the time they indict on all the charges brought, and
Yeah.
in the rare times they don't, they know what's called no bill, and they say there's no probable cause on all the charges.
Yeah.
It's even rarer to split, and like I said, it was
Right.
less than a dozen times out of the million plus indictments over the
Right.
last 20 years.
Well,
So that was interesting.
I will be interested to know what people don't necessarily know about the grand jury process is it's secret in the
Mhm.
sense that it's one prosecutor and a witness and the grand jurors, right? But nobody knows what's the evidence that's presented in there. And they oftentimes will never know because it's very, very difficult in federal court to get your hands on the transcript of what the testimony was.
Mhm.
And the other thing is hearsay is completely admissible in a
Mhm.
grand jury. The rules of evidence in that way don't really apply.
Yeah.
And so we don't know who even testified to present this information that somehow convinced enough grand jurors to say there's probable cause to believe that these crimes occurred. And I think the reason why Weissman and others are so skeptical or dismissive about it is because they've heard so much from inside the DOJ leading up to this saying
Yeah.
there's no there there. I mean,
Right.
that's why the lead U.S. attorney in the ED Virginia resigned, or he
Right.
got fired actually. Trump fired him. And also because we have that lovely truth social post from the president that we don't know if he meant to post on Truth Social or if it was meant to be a DM to Pam Bondi, the Attorney
Right.
General, saying,
Exactly.
hey, you got to prosecute these people and do it
Yeah.
now. And because he believes they're criminals.
Yeah.
So it does smack of find a crime, get it done. And that is not the way our system is supposed to work. So I think a lot of people are sort of premising their opinions on that foundation of this must be bullshit. This is never going to go to trial. It's never going to make it to trial because clearly there's so many shenanigans that it's bound to come out in the
Well,
wash and everybody,
but
this will
that's what a
go
trial is
away.
for, though. But see, that would be my response, or that is my response. Is
Well,
that is what a
ultimately
trial?
it is, but that's also what a vigorous pretrial motions practice is for. Um,
True, but they're not going to get this indictment dismissed the indictment sets forth the statutory language. You know, you and I know how difficult it is to try to get an indictment dismissed.
Well, this is
So,
one case where I would fight, even though the defense generally has zero right to get the grand jury transcript. This is one
yeah.
case where I would fight tooth and nail to get the grand jury transcript disclosed. And if not disclosed to the public, an in-camera review by the sitting judge,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
this
I
just
I agree
sounds
100%. Yeah.
this is ripe for abuse of the grand
Yeah.
jury
Yeah.
because there's a memo out there that was prepared by the DOJ listing all the reasons why this was a bad case. That's what
Right.
I heard. And
Yep.
does the government have a duty to present that exculpatory evidence at the grand jury? Should they have, did they do a fair presentation? Who did they call? What was the testimony? Like
Yeah.
this, just given all the circumstances, I don't know if they could win this motion, but this is a textbook example of A, how easy it is to get an
Right.
indictment. There's the saying,
The
grand
ham
jury would indict a
sandwich.
ham
Yeah.
sandwich.
Yeah.
And B, how easy it is to abuse the system because nobody's watching.
Right.
And I'm sorry, but bad things happen when no one's watching.
Hmm. Well, we're
It-
all watching. I mean, and I think that the what this is a lesson right now in is how easy it is, and frankly, has always been how easy it's to abuse our criminal justice system and to abuse that grand
yeah,
jury process. All our eyes are on Comey right now because it's high profile and because of what Trump said and all this stuff. But this stuff happens every day,
sure.
and and it happens to nobodies like us.
Yeah,
And we have the whole weight, as you said before. You never want to be on the other side of that caption, United States
absolutely.
versus you. And,
Right.
that's this really what this should be is not, Trump's out to his shenanigans again, but hopefully this is an education and how easy it is for the criminal justice system to be abused and misused, but not just because of Trump, but whoever is in
Yes.
office and
Yeah,
by
yeah.
any
This is
prosecutor. Yeah.
nothing new. People say,
Yes.
weaponization of the DOJ. First of all, you've been referring to the criminal justice system. I have of late, FYI, taken the justice out of the saying. I only say the criminal system now
Okay.
because
Fair enough. Yeah.
there's so much justice missing from this process. And you're right, this is nothing new. We
Mm.
have seen we have seen this time and time again. The only difference is you don't often see it used against someone who has a lot of power,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And my old criminal justice professor, Dr. Hal Popinski, coined a term, the lightning rod effect. And when I had my liberal indoctrination in the university at Indiana University and became a flaming leftist, but the
Like
lightning rod,
Zapata.
exactly, the lightning rod effect simply says power gravitates towards modes of least resistance. So
Mm.
this system has been weaponized from the get-go
Yeah.
against people who have no resources
Yes.
or black people, brown people, and things like that. So
Yep.
it's nothing new, and it is what it is. This is what is new though is this involvement of a sitting president because to the extent a president has
Well,
had
so openly. Let's put
yeah,
it that
that's
way.
exactly what I was going to go with.
Yeah.
If it's happened in the past, which Trump supporters will say it absolutely has, and Biden and blah blah blah, but
Yeah.
never, Biden wasn't out there saying, we talked about, did we talked about on the Kirk podcast, we talked about
Hmm.
this pretrial publicity problem,
Hmm.
right? That's
Yeah.
going to be another pretrial motion, but we've never had a president in all of his administration on TV prejudging guilt, calling him sick,
Yeah.
animal, criminal, all this rhetoric that we're hearing all day for the last 24 hours. That's new.
Yeah.
That's
That
new.
is new. That is new.
And should
Yeah.
be the source of a very vigorous pretrial motion
Yes.
practice
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because we
I,
forgot
I'm
all about
skeptical if
that.
it'll win. Just to be honest, as I know what the government is going to say when that motion is filed, or even the court, the judge, which by the way is an Obama appointee. Not that that really matters.
Oh,
Uh,
I thought it was a Biden.
Biden, maybe it was,
It's
maybe
one of those lefty
it's one of those
lunatics.
guys.
Which, by
Anyway,
the way, Trump is already railing about, that this is as if to
the
say
fix is
that
in.
the fix is in. Well,
The deep state,
what does that say about Judge Cannon in Florida, who
right?
dismissed the documents case? Does that
Right.
mean, is that his very clear admission that the fix was in there?
Yep, yeah, probably. He's very open. Trump
Okay.
is a very open book. So
So,
as much as sometimes we don't want
oh
to
my
read that book, but
God. Well,
um,
let's just don't jump into the, I think people are really interested to know what could happen to this man if he's
yeah.
convicted.
Okay, well, let's look at the what the charges are. So, two counts. One count is a false statement. It's a 1001 charge that carries a 5-year stat max.
Uh-huh.
And the other charge is obstruction of a congressional proceeding. And they're basically two sides of the same coin. They all stem from this one really false statement, but it was the effect of that false statement that supposedly obstructed this congressional proceeding. And
Do you have the
that,
indictment handy, and
yeah,
can you put it up on the screen?
yeah, let me get it. Let me get it here real
And
quick.
just so I'm sure everybody knows this, but the allegation, this is also sort of preposterous. The Trump administration has graciously taken up the cause of vindicating the rights of Hillary Clinton, and the grave injustice that Jim Comey perpetrated against her, because this indictment is predicated not on Russia, 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 or any of that stuff. It's about allegedly, it's about him testifying to Congress about whether he directed a subordinate to leak information about Hillary Clinton, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
So
and
do you see
he,
the indictment? I have it here up on the
yeah, yeah,
screen.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I do.
yeah.
And it says on or about September 30th, he
Mhm.
did willfully and knowingly make a materially false. I'd like to talk about that too, materiality, but let's not jump ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent. Don't you love how lawyers can say shit with 3 words when they really just need to say he lied?
Yeah.
But made a materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement in a matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of government, blah, 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 that in that he had not authorized, quote, this is in quotes, interestingly, had not, quote, authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports. This statement was false because Mr. Comey then and there knew he, in fact, had authorized person three to serve as an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning person one, all in violation of 18 USC 1001 and A2.
So we know person one is Hillary Clinton, and
Okay. And who's person?
person
Wait,
I,
who's person? Where's person two in this? They jump from one to three.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Who's person three?
Person three is I'm blanking on his
It's
name.
not
He was,
McCabe, is it?
I think so. I
Because
think so.
McCabe's allegedly said is on record saying Comey didn't direct him to do it.
No, I think no, I thought he was on record saying he did.
Oh.
I
And
think it
isn't
is Andrew
McCabe,
McCabe.
and wasn't Andrew McCabe the one that was texting his girlfriend and got
No,
fired for that?
no, no, no,
No,
no,
that was
no.
Struck. Never
Struck.
mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so that's Andy McCabe is person three, and Hillary Clinton is person one.
And
So
by the way, McCabe was, I'm just Wikipediaing, he was
yeah,
the deputy director of the
yep,
FBI
deputy.
from 2016 to 2018, and acting director of the FBI probably after Comey got shit canned in May
Yep.
of 2017 to August 2017.
Yeah.
So, and attorney Jeff Sessions fired McCabe on March 16th, 2018, 26 hours before his scheduled
Oh,
retirement.
I remember that. Yeah, that was just ugly.
That's some cold
Yeah, that's
shit right
cold-blooded.
there.
Yeah. So okay, so here's count one. It's the 18 USC 1001 that carries a 5-year stat max, and this is the allegation. And then so count two.
Whoa, whoa, wait.
Oh,
Sorry. He went to
oh,
what? I'm still doing.
oh,
I've got
sorry.
ADD.
Okay.
I'm still reading his Wikipedia.
Oh,
He obtained his law degree from Washington University School of Law in 1993. Guess who started Washington University School of Law in 1993?
you.
This guy.
Yeah.
I missed Andrew McKay by a year at
Wow.
WashU. I'll be damned. Learn
Wow.
something new. Okay, sorry.
Okay. So now on to count two, obstruction of the congressional proceeding. Go ahead. You can read this for our audio
Okay,
folks.
on September 30th, 2020, Edie, Virginia, he corruptly endeavored to influence, obstruct, and impede the due and proper exercise of the power of inquiry under which an investigation was being had before the Senate Judiciary Committee a false by making false and misleading statements before that committee.
Yeah.
So same conduct, two
It's
different
the same
statutes.
conduct as like I was saying before. It's the two sides of the same coin.
Hmm.
But they're allowed. The government's allowed to do this. The same conduct can violate two different statutes, and
Yeah.
that's what happened here. And so this 1505 charge, 18 USC 1505, that also carries a stat max of 5 years. So what Comey's looking at is he can be, if he's convicted on both counts, he could be sentenced up to 10 years, which is not insignificant.
Hmm.
That's a very serious sentence,
Yeah.
a very serious exposure. So, so what is he looking at then? What's a possible
Yeah.
Well,
So for
do you want to
people,
jump there, or do you want
well,
to?
no, I'll throw it to you, but I'll just
Okay,
set it up for
yeah.
we do have one person watching the live stream now. We had three. It probably was my mom, my dad, and my sister, and now it's probably just my dad.
Yeah.
If I had to guess,
Yeah.
my number one fan. Love you, Dad. For people who don't know, there's the law which you just cited to, which says statutory max can't be more than 5 years in prison for this. But then you have to look to the guidelines, the drunk uncle of federal sentencing law.
Yeah.
The drunk
Okay.
uncle gives advice to the judge about what the sentence should be, and in
Very
order
drunk
to,
uncle.
yeah, and it's always almost all not almost it's always really bad advice from our drunk
Yeah.
uncle. And we call it drunk uncle because he's the guy rambling at the table at Thanksgiving who has an opinion about everything and you wouldn't listen to any of it. And the truth is, most of the time, the judges, more often than not, ignore the advice of the guidelines. But you do have to start with the guidelines, and there's a little intricate machinations you go through to figure out what is his guidelines in the U.S. sentencing guidelines. So that's what Mark Allenbaugh's expertise is, and that's what sentencingstats.com is really all about, is the guideline issues and what are the trends in sentencing there.
Yeah.
So I think we're about to talk about all of those things while I just sit my siete leguas.
Okay. Good.
Because
So,
I need tequila when it comes to the guidelines. It's
yeah.
not a
No.
want, it's a need.
No kidding. No kidding. So let's look here. We're going to look at the guidelines. So here, um, regardless of the whether he's convicted of count one, the false statement, or count two, the obstruction, it's going to end up here at this guideline, the obstruction. And so if he was, let's just say he was just convicted of the false statement, but not the obstruction, for guidelines purposes, it doesn't matter. He would still be sentenced as if he was convicted of obstruction. A weird thing with the guidelines. The guidelines only care about whether you got convicted, not what you're convicted of, for purposes of imposing a sentence. So this is bad. This is bad news for Comey. The reason why is he's starting at a base offense level of 14, which is pretty high. Usually, most base offense levels, like for fraud, it's either 6 or 7. Money
Hmm.
laundering is 8. So most of them are a lot lower. So he's starting out at a 14, and the guidelines, the offense levels range from 1 to 43, and now you add them up. So what we're going to look at here, where I think, and I am sure,
So
um,
just to put
yeah,
a just a little dumb it down a little bit, you
yeah,
start with the base offense level, which you just said is 14,
right,
but then the guidelines have these things called specific offense characteristics. So
right,
they tack on additional enhancements that raise your level. Now the level doesn't mean years in prison, months in prison, anything else.
yeah,
It's just half of the analysis of finding
right,
out what the guidelines chart says. But
right.
will there be SOCs, specific offense?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Okay.
I think that, and if he's convicted, I'm pretty sure the government would probably be able to get some of these, if not the couple of ones here that I'm going to be talking about. One is here,
Which,
if
by the
the
way, only have to be proven by preponderance of the evidence. These are not things that would ever be found by a jury. They're just
correct,
decided by the judge, and the burden of proof is so low. It's so easy to get these
just a
enhancements.
preponderance of the evidence, and the
Yeah.
rules of evidence do not apply at
Yeah.
sentencing.
Yeah.
So, hearsay comes in, you don't have to authenticate any documents, and it's very easy to get these SOCs.
One of the many reasons I've stopped putting justice into criminal justice system.
Yeah,
That's
it
one of the
makes sense.
most, it's one of the most unjust parts about federal criminal laws is how easy it is to get these enhancements and
Yeah,
how little due process there is attached to it.
right. Very little. So there's this next one that says if the offense resulted in substantial interference with the administration of justice, you're going to get a +3. The government's going to argue for this. They're going to argue for every little SOC that they can get, and they'll probably be able to get this because of the circumstances under which it transpired, lying to Congress. And I'm trying to remember, and I'm sure I'm forgetting, but I cannot remember just off the top of my head another time somebody was federally prosecuted for lying to Congress. Something tells me in the back of my mind there was one somewhat
Hmm.
not too long ago,
I
but
might
I
have to consult the law offices of Chat GPT on that
well,
one.
why don't you look at that, because I'd be really curious if anybody else has recently, because I bet you this applied. Because it's one thing to lie to an FBI agent during an investigation or something else, but it's quite another thing to lie to a senator, during a hearing.
Yeah.
That really kind of ups the ante, and I would think that that would be a substantial interference with the administration of justice. And then the last SOC here, at least under this guideline, that I think they would go for, and this is kind of an easy one, extensive scope and planning, or
Um,
preparation, and
e-
they're probably
Hold
going
on.
to,
Do you want
yeah.
to know the answer to your question?
Oh, yes, okay, Mandy McCabe.
I don't think this is quite accurate.
Okay,
Um, because I asked about lying to Congress, and I actually, this shows you how dumb AI can be because
yeah.
my prompt was very clear. Has anyone been convicted of lying to Congress? And I get, first of all, I thought AI was supposed to be like sycophantic and very complimentary. So what I expected them to say is, that's a very good question, Doug. But they didn't. They didn't do any of that
Oh,
stuff.
wow. That
My
was a very good
AI,
question, Doug.
my
Yeah.
my AI girlfriend would have been more complimentary to me. Yes, that's a very good question. No, but they get right to the point,
Yeah.
and yes, several high profile individuals have been convicted of lying to Congress,
Okay.
though it's
Yeah.
relatively rare due to the high burden of proof and political sensitivities. Here are a
Yes.
few notable examples. This is why it's so dumb. First one on the list, Roger Clemens. If my father's watching, he'll perk up at this. MLB pitcher accused of perjury, acquitted in 2012. So I I'm not sure
Well,
ChatGPT understands the definition of
yeah,
convict.
yeah, he wasn't convicted, but
Scooter
yeah,
Libby. We were just talking about Fitzgerald. He didn't he
yeah,
prosecute Scooter Libby?
yeah. But was it for lying to Congress?
It was obstruction and false statements.
Yeah, I
And
don't
I
think that
don't
was
know.
lying. Yeah, I don't.
I don't think it
Yeah,
was either. It may have been. I don't think it was. Martha Stewart. And then it goes.
no,
And
that
then it goes.
yeah.
I know. This is why
Chat
you don't
GPT is an
fucking do.
idiot.
This is
Yeah,
why you don't consult ChatGPT.
yeah,
To all of my lawyer friends out there and all of my
yeah.
wonderful clients who think ChatGPT knows shit, ChatGPT doesn't know shit. Although, wait a minute. Michael Cohen says pled guilty in 2018 to lying to Congress about Trump Tower Moscow.
Yes, I think that's correct. But I think
Okay.
that's the last guy, and I'd have to go back
Well,
and see
guess
what
who's last on this list that they gave me?
who.
James Comey. And
Well, he hasn't been convicted
it
yet.
says recently indicted and it's in
Well, that's
italics.
true. That's
So
true.
fuck you, ChatGPT.
Wow.
In
Wow.
fairness, it's not ChatGPT, it's Microsoft's Copilot. So maybe ChatGPT would have been smarter, but Microsoft Copilot, sorry to say, sucks.
Okay. Well,
Anywho,
at any rate, so he's going to get a +3 for substantial interference, and I'm
but
pretty
I got to
sure.
ask you about
Yeah.
that
Yes.
because, and to me, this is actually more of a question about the proving the substantive allegation, but it
Mhm.
has to be material. Your lie has to be material.
Yes.
And materiality is an element. And the way I'm understanding this indictment is leaking is not illegal. Who leaked is not that important. Even the fact that the information wasn't leaked was not that important. They were trying to dirty Comey up as a liar and a leaker.
Yeah.
Trump loved to call him, Trump's a wordsmith and he likes to
Right.
brand people with these
Right.
labels. And he had branded Comey with this label of liar and a leaker. And Ted Cruz, I think, was the one doing this questioning who was
Yes.
doing Trump's bidding. And he, I guess, thinks that he may think that was important. I have a hard time understanding why that's material. So what? If I did or I didn't, it wasn't illegal. My subordinate was perfectly allowed
Well,
to talk to the press. Who cares?
yeah.
So it may
Very.
be a lie, maybe, or not.
Yes,
But
but
why is it
I'm
material?
okay. So to play devil's advocate,
Okay.
it's material because that was the whole point of the investigation, to find out who authorized the leak. Yes, authorizing the leak. If we found out, Cruz found out, or Comey admitted, yes, I
Okay.
told McCabe he could leak. Nothing would have happened to Comey because that wasn't illegal, other than Trump saying, "Aha, yes, you're the liar and the leaker." But as we
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's not the crime. It's not the conduct. It's the
It's a
cover up.
cover up.
Yeah, and so it was him lying about it, and that was material. So
And that's a good argument, but I would counter by saying if the point was to find out who's leaking in order to right the ship, clean house, make sure that we could identify the wrongdoers and get rid of them, that would be very important because that would be the goal. But if the goal is to just say you're an asshole for leaking, because he's long gone at this point. He's
right.
not involved in government anymore. He's fired. Like, who cares? I
Yeah,
don't
no,
understand.
good point. And this would be, for the defense, this would go to the that element of materiality. And if they can't prove materiality beyond a reasonable doubt, then he gets an acquittal. So yeah, I get your point. I'm just saying what their argument would be is that was the
Yeah.
whole point of the investigation, is to
Well,
find
and
out
so it just made me wonder how that interplays with this in back to the guidelines, this enhancement
for
for
substantial interference.
substantial interference, because to me that speaks directly to not only is this important, i.e., material, but it really interfered. It substantially interfered with what is the language? With the administration of justice.
Yes.
So I don't think this thing would apply. There's no
Well,
justice to administer. No one's getting
well,
prosecuted for this. It's not a
well,
crime.
so first of all,
If it
here's
were
the
a crime, he'd be
definition.
charged with leaking. He'd be
Yeah.
charged
Well,
with directing the leak.
it doesn't need to be a crime. It
Well, what's
just
the administration of justice mean? Words matter, Mark.
yes, they do. But here, I'm trying to tell you, right here in the definition, is substantial interference of justice includes, so it's this is non-exclusive, includes a premature or improper termination of a felony investigation. And maybe that's where this investigation was going. There wasn't just a clean house, but they wanted to see if any crimes were committed. And so by Comey lying and saying,
Hmm.
I didn't authorize anything, that could have been a premature or improper termination of a felony investigation or an indictment verdict or any judicial determination based upon perjury. False testimony, maybe McCabe was lying. And now who's
And we're
lying
not
here?
talking about a judicial determination. We're talking about a Senate hearing. There's no judiciary involved in this. This is a legislative branch.
Like I said, includes this. These are just examples,
Yeah.
or other false, or other
Okay.
false evidence. So, and look, it's very
Yeah.
broad in scope. I think just the mere fact that this occurred in the context of a congressional hearing
Yeah.
is most likely enough
Yeah.
for a judge to give this +3 adjustment for substantial interference.
Yeah. And the last clause is or the unnecessary expenditure of substantial governmental
Yeah,
or court resources. So I
yeah,
guess they could say they somehow expended substantial governmental resources, but
yeah.
I don't know about that
It's very,
either.
it's very broad. It's very broadly worded. This is another problem with the guidelines.
Right.
Is they have these very open-ended, vague, specific offense characteristics that can apply in almost any situation, and unfortunately, they do.
Yeah.
They do apply in almost any situation
Right.
because it's really up to the judge and the judge's gut. Really, do I want to give another +3? Do I think this
Right.
is just a fine? I'm justified because of this vague adjust enhancement. And so with that said, otherwise extensive in scope, planning, or preparation. Well, that can mean anything. But here, I think it'll be very easy to prove that this was extensive in at least planning and preparation. That he had a plan to lie and maybe covered up some things. They'll say through some conduct and you know
Yeah, I would
what
say
have you.
no way for that one too.
Well,
Listen, he testified in 2017. I didn't direct anyone to leak. Then he comes back in 2020, I think, and goes, what I said back then, I stand by it. That's the extent of what I understand this so-called crime to be. And that doesn't sound to me like any in planning and preparation.
Well, I would
It's
say just the opposite. He's been planning this for years, just pointing back to his original lie.
sticking to his story. He
Exactly. He's
doubled down
sticking
on
to the
his.
lie. He's
Well,
sticking to
first
the
of
lie.
all, we don't know if it's a lie. Everyone's
I,
presumed
I know.
innocent.
Well, we're
But
not. Look,
oh,
if we're
I
talking
know. If
about
we're talking
this,
about the guidelines, he's
we're
been
talking about the
convicted.
guidelines. He's been convicted. So
I just want to
that's
make sure that
yeah,
the massive public, because there's 3 million people watching this live stream right
excellent,
now.
excellent,
Did I
excellent.
say 3 million? I meant three. But we're
Okay,
back up to three. So that means
okay.
my mom and sister are probably back on.
Excellent. Okay. So look, so we're now at he starts out at a 14 under my calculation, gets a +3. So now he's at a 17 and now also a +2. So now we're at 19. I'm not going to go through, there's one more in a different section of the guidelines I think will apply, and that's abuse of a position of trust.
Yeah.
And even though
Now
he
that one
was,
sounds like it could apply because
yeah,
he was the head honcho at the FBI at the time he allegedly directed the leak.
correct. So
But that's interesting. Would that abuse of trust go to, because he's not being charged with directing a leak. He's being charged with lying about that, and he wasn't in any position of trust at the time. Or was
what
just the
about
very
when he
fact that he,
original? I think on his original testimony, he was still.
wasn't he canned by that point? I th-
I can't remember.
Okay. Well, it's a
Uh,
stronger case if he was.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, if I'm a very overzealous prosecutor, I would say
Yeah,
James Comey resumed his position of trust well after he was fired because he's a public figure and he had the highest office of the FBI, and the FBI looks up to him, and he was a role model and a bleep blop bloop.
yeah, bleep, blop, blop.
That sounds like a little bit of a stretch to
Well, you're
this
right. It
country,
is a stretch,
simple
but
country
here's
lawyer, but who knows?
let me put it this way. Here, this is kind of like a worst case scenario guideline
Yes,
analysis,
we
I
always
guess.
do worst
Yeah.
case
So that's
scenario.
another. So that's another plus two.
Yeah.
So now he's at a 21, if I'm doing that correctly.
Oh,
Yeah,
you had in your outline he was a 19 total
well,
offense.
so well, you didn't let me get to the next. There's
Oh,
one more
sorry.
adjustment. So now he's at a 21. I am assuming he has
Oh,
no
gotcha.
criminal history.
I think
So
that's probably a fair assumption for
yeah, so no criminal
a
history.
lawyer and former director of the FBI.
Yes. So no criminal history. He's going
Probably an
to
Eagle Scout as well.
probably he'll qualify for the 0 point offender downward adjustment. So that's two levels off. So
Okay,
now we are at a 19.
I gotcha.
So now, and now at a 19, what we're going to do is go over to our handy dandy Jason, and we're just going to look here real quick to see.
Jason is, for the uninitiated, the judicial sentencing information. It's a database that the federal judiciary keeps on sentencing statistics.
Yeah, in the
That's a nice place
Sentencing
to
Commission.
start, but oh, sentencing commission.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
Nice.
good place to start, but there's a lot of errors in it.
Yeah.
Lots. But it'll put you in the ballpark at least. So we're at 2J 1.2 is our guideline, and we said he's going to be at a 19 in criminal history category one. So I click on that, and now over here pops up for all 29 defendants in the cell.
Well,
The average,
first tell us what the guidelines say, what the range is,
the
which is
range is 30 to 37 months.
yeah, so two and
Okay,
a half to 3 years essentially
yeah, but because
for
the
any
guidelines
math
are
challenge.
right, because the guidelines are merely advisory, judges can sentence below or above that. Most sentence below. So there are 29 defendants over the last 5 fiscal years that match this calculation, and their average was 24 months, and the median was 24 months. So just a little below. So two
Wow.
years basically
Yeah.
is,
Okay.
or roughly what he's looking at if he's convicted under both or either of the counts of conviction. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is what he's going to end
Now,
up at.
okay, so a couple points. One is that's not nothing. 2 years is
Mm-mm.
significant sentence, and
Yeah,
it's more than I would have predicted for basically a simple false statements case.
yeah,
So people need to understand this is serious business,
yes,
and there's a lot at stake. And even though he won't serve a full 2 years, if he ever does get convicted,
yeah,
it's still a lot of time. The other thing that people need to understand is, you know, yes, those are the median sentence, average sentences.
mhm,
Yes, it's typical for judges to go below. I don't think there's ever been someone of this position of trust in the law. I mean, we're talking about the head of the FBI and former U.S. attorney, officer of the court, lawyer. So the real question I have is, does that work to his benefit or his detriment? Because we've seen lawyers who end up running afoul of the law, and sometimes it goes well for them. Sometimes it goes very bad for them because they say you have a heightened responsibility
yeah.
to honor the law that you've dedicated your whole life to, you know,
And that's
upholding.
that abuse of trust
Yeah.
adjustment there. So unfortunately, I think it works against him in this situation if he was to get convicted.
It may work against him, but on the other hand, we do a defending your life kind of narrative
Right.
about, okay, fine, these are the allegations. These are the guidelines. Now let's talk about the human being behind this story. And my guess is, I mean, I haven't followed Jim Comey's career, but my guess is there'd be about 1,000 people that'll come out of the
Oh
woodwork to
yeah.
talk about the difference in their lives that he's made for the better,
Yeah.
whether it's employees that he's supervised at the DOJ, whether it's victims who he's prosecuted their, abusers or their
Mm.
traffickers or their this or their that, whether it's people in his personal space that he's done things, mentored or worked for charities, volunteered at his church, whatever it's going to
Yeah.
be. For whatever faults I may have had with him, he does strike me as kind of the quintessential Boy Scout character in this lifetime. And so
Yeah.
it's going to be just a whole this against that balancing act.
You know.
And with the whole mishmash of politics swirled in there. And if the judge, we don't know what the evidence is going to be at the end of the day. We
Right.
don't even know if the case makes it to trial, let alone conviction. But if it makes it to conviction, you can it's probably likely that there was some there because
Yeah.
he's going to have the finest lawyers in the land doing everything they can to defend him
Yes.
at the highest levels of practice, criminal practice.
Yeah.
And so if they run that gauntlet and still come out with a conviction, there was some there. And then the
Yeah.
question is going to be, how does the judge feel about what he did? And that's I don't know. That's going to
Yeah.
be interesting.
Well, my prediction is if he is convicted, he's not going to get 2 years, but he's going to get a custodial sentence
I
because
can
there
see
is
him
there.
not because there's another story here, which is how does the person who put all those people in prison go to prison with all those people that he put in prison? And that's always mitigation. He would probably have to spend his entire time in solitary.
In the well,
Um,
so yeah,
he might go
he's
to
not going to get 2 years, but he'll get some time in custody. It'll probably be a very modest amount because of that, like 3 months or something like that. But that's still even 3 months in solitary confinement is a nightmare. And
should we do bets now, predictions? Because
I want to do bets now. Look, you're Pancho, Zapata, so let's do it.
okay.
I'll yeah.
I'm not gonna bet whether a conviction occurs because there's so many unknowns.
Yeah.
But I'm
I
just saying
sentence.
if in the
If a
worst case
conviction,
scenario he
yes.
gets convicted,
Okay.
my he's not getting a custodial sentence.
Okay.
My number is 0. What's your number? He might get
Well,
house
my then
arrest or
my number is
something.
just any. So my number is just he will get a custodial sentence of
Okay.
some amount.
Fair enough.
Okay.
All right. If you want to pick a
I'll be
number,
more fair. I'll be more fair. Anything more than a day, because he might get, sometimes, as you know, courts will give 1 day of
yeah.
imprisonment just to get him right on a supervised release, and that's just being processed for an hour down at the marshal's office in the court.
Yeah.
So it would be more than a day where he actually has to spend time overnight somewhere, either in a local jail or at a BOP facility.
And if he gets
That will
house
count as
arrest,
custodial.
that doesn't count as custodial sentence, right? Like if he gets home confinement.
Well, if
I
he got
still
home
win.
confinement, yeah, no. If he
Uh,
got probation with home confinement, no.
yeah.
No, I'm talking like true ass custodial, more than just the what's the word I'm looking for, but more than just a single day.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd have to be at least 2 days somewhere where he's going to have to spend the night in a
Mm-hmm.
nasty
Okay.
place. Yeah.
So you're saying at least 2 days. God, I thought like a minute ago you were at a couple months.
No, I was at three, but I mean, if the bet is between, is it going to be a custodial or non-custodial? That's
Yeah.
what I thought the bet is. So I don't
Okay.
have to come up with a particular number. Yeah, I could say 3 months. I think it's going to be 3 months, but I still win if it's 2 months or one
Mm-hmm.
month or 2 days because it's custodial.
What about this? What about if he gets a
Now
time, what if he gets a time served? Like if he has to self-surrender, but he spends an hour in the U.S. Marshal
well, that's what
custody
I'm
getting
saying. No. That's
prosecuted,
yeah.
I win. I win for that,
You
right?
still win for that. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
And I don't want to be
That's the
flip.
one day.
I
That's the
don't want to
one
be
day
too
thing.
flip about betting
Yeah.
about a man with such serious stakes, but I just don't
Oh, come on.
see. I just don't see. I mean, yeah, maybe it's just my hope that there is some justice in the justice system because regardless of what I think about James Comey, I don't think he's a nefarious actor. I don't think he's an evil person. I think in his heart of hearts, he has wanted to do right by this country and by the
Yeah, but that's
DOJ.
gotten us, but but in all honesty, to step back for a bit and to be completely fair and candid, that's gotten us in trouble. What he thinks is the right thing to do. And he went outside the orthodoxy and he
Yeah.
screwed the pooch, and saying all the
Um,
stuff about Hillary Clinton when he wasn't supposed to. That wasn't his role.
okay, but he's paying the price for it. So
Well,
how
not
much?
yet,
How much? No, yes, yet. Yes, yet. When you have an indictment come down,
Well, true,
it's
but
on like Donkey Kong.
yeah,
And I loved his statement yesterday, and that he's not afraid, and I'm innocent, and let's do the trial.
yeah.
But there is a part of him that is very afraid. There
Yeah.
is a part of him that's very afraid, and because any normal human being has to be
Well,
when this.
but that was our point at the beginning, and I absolutely agree with that. And he should be afraid because of the machinery of the criminal injustice system.
I just say criminal system.
Yeah,
That's it. It's a
exactly.
system. It's a
Yeah.
meat
I
grinder.
said
It's a
injustice
process,
system, but you're
and
right.
it is criminal in a lot of ways. It is criminal. And you know what? I'll take this opportunity to tell you what's the most criminal because I just recorded a podcast that will drop Monday on Robert Roberson's case, who is an innocent man on death row in
Yeah,
Texas who was convicted on junk science and because people didn't understand autism. And he is set to be executed in 3 weeks. And he's innocent. And
yeah.
there's not even a question of his innocence. And to me, murdering an innocent autistic man, it doesn't get any more criminal
No,
than
exactly.
that. So, I don't know what to say about any of this. We didn't even talk about this, the acting U.S.
Well,
attorney,
let's do
but
that. Let's
that's
leave this on
interesting.
a good note. But I think this issue is what everybody's missing in the press. So if anyone's still watching or eventually watches it, this is the big thing I think that's worth focusing on. And this is what may result in the case going away.
So, and first of all, let's note she's the ultimate DEI hire, and
Yes, I love it. I love that. Yeah.
The
That's so true.
the
Oh my
diversity
God,
they
that's
were looking
perfect.
for was somebody who would exact Trump's revenge agenda, and they had to fire every other lawyer who wouldn't go
Yep.
along with this injustice until they find
Yes.
one that said. And I think it's any lawyer in the Department of Justice, if they had any spunk at all, would say she's not qualified. She did take a more qualified person's job. She's
Yeah.
Someone said she's just a,
Yes.
someone today goes, she's just an insurance lawyer. And I'm like, well, don't sell her short. She's also a beauty pageant winner. So, but she has
But Doug, in all
zero,
seriousness,
yeah,
that is so spot on. She
yeah,
is the ultimate DEI hire, and
yeah,
not because she's a woman. I don't want
right.
this to be portrayed as
No,
sexist or anything like this,
and not because
but
she's
she is
white.
right. But she is complete.
Maybe
Well,
because
I think
she's
that part of
white.
it is because she's white. It's
Yeah,
because
because,
one of my daughters mentioned this to me not too long ago. Called the pretty privilege, the
mm,
pretty privilege, and I think she has that as well too. But the point is, she is the ultimate DEI hire because she's completely unqualified.
unqualified.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
just upon and from what I understand, I read this in the New York Times earlier today, that she was the only one present from the office at the grand jury hearing, and she was the one that was able to get the indictment. Which, to be honest with him, when I read that, I was like, I
Well,
was
maybe
pretty
she is
impressed
qualified.
for 4 days off, 4 days in the job, never
Yeah,
having an experience as a prosecutor, and this being her
yeah,
first grand jury,
yeah. All the
hearing.
more reason I want to see that transcript.
Yeah, exact. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and she failed at one. Just to remind everybody, she failed at one count. That
Hmm.
she got a no bill on one count. But at any rate, so here's the really really interesting issue about her is that she has not, and for any U.S. attorney, like any judge, and many other members of the executive branch in the cabinet, for example,
Hmm.
they are nominated by the president but must obtain the advice and consent of the Senate before they take the official position. So
Right.
you cannot become the U.S. attorney of any district just with the just by being nominated by the president. You
Hmm.
must go through the Senate confirmation
Hmm.
process. The
Yeah.
Senate must sign off on
Yeah.
you,
And there's a
and
time limit
then
on that.
well, and there's a time limit on it. Well, there's not necessarily. Well, I guess there was a time limit on the nomination process,
Well, she
but
can be there as like acting until for a period of time, right?
well,
Until she's
so here's
confirmed.
so she's not acting.
She's what is
She's
she?
an interim. She's an
Interim.
interim
Gotcha.
U.S. attorney because acting is something else. And this is
Acting
what
is the loophole that they're using to keep these people in there when they're there unlawfully, right? Because this is what Alina Habba's story is.
acting. So here's how one becomes an acting U.S. attorney:
Yeah.
is the U.S. You have the U.S. attorney, and then you have the first assistant U.S. attorney.
Yes.
Okay, the
Yeah.
U.S. attorney leaves for whatever reason,
Yeah.
resigns, fired, dies, whatever.
Yeah.
Then immediately there's an immediate vacancy,
Yeah.
and that first assistant moves in and becomes the acting.
Uh-huh. And
That's not
that's
what
the
happened here.
but that's the loophole that they're using for the other ones who are there unlawfully. And that's what happened in the District of New Jersey that's being litigated right now with Alina Habba, which is she
Well,
was,
actually, Alina Habba was never the first. No, what happened with Alina Habba? She was never the first assistant.
I thought they made her that after she
After the
didn't,
fact. So yeah,
so,
this is what's causing the problem. So
right.
what they did, what it so there's two things that can happen when the U.S. attorney is out and dies or is out of the office, and there's a vacancy. The first
Dies.
assistant,
They don't have to die. Why
they
do you
don't
have
have to
them
die
die?
just when they're no longer there. The U.S. attorney,
They've just gone on to a
they've just
farm,
gone
live
on
on a
whatever.
farm
Yes.
upstate.
Then the first assistant can move into that vacancy as the acting, or the president or the attorney general can appoint somebody into that position,
Uh-huh.
but instead of the first assistant. That person in that position now is not the acting U.S. attorney, they're an interim
Uh-huh.
U.S. attorney, and
Gotcha.
they can sit there for up to 120 days.
Gotcha.
After 120, if it and during that 120 days, the president can nominate somebody else. And by the way,
Mm-hmm.
this is really important. Whoever that interim person is cannot be subject to a nomination for the. They're basically disqualified now from becoming the U.S. attorney, which is why they never made Alina Habba the interim.
Oh,
Yeah, because it's right there in the statute. I know this is very very weird and very crazy.
okay.
So before get so just to so we don't get too far in the woods on here. Just sticking with Lindsay Halligan, she's the interim U.S. attorney. She can only sit there for 120 days. At the end of 120 days, one of two things must happen. Either, or one of three things can happen. Either during the next 120 days, Trump gets somebody in there as the actual U.S. attorney who has been that the Senate has approved of. Okay, or at the end of the 120 days, the district court judges for the Eastern District of Virginia get together and they can vote on who
Mm-hmm.
they want. And it could be Lindsay Halligan if they wanted to, or the first assistant or some other
Mm-hmm.
qualified person. They vote, and that person continues in that position as now the acting U.S. attorney until there's a real U.S. attorney put in place with the advice and consent of the Senate. Um,
Interesting.
or you get what has happened now in the District of New Jersey and what is happening now in four other districts throughout the United States. You, nobody's there. And what happened in the District of New Jersey is Trump tried to circumvent and try to be too cute by half all the statutes and stuff and try to do something really weird to keep Elena Habba in, because what Elena Habba was in really as an interim, even though they called her acting, she was there as an interim. And at the end of the 120 days expired.
And the
And so
judges
they
did
tried,
not want her
and the judges didn't want her. So then they decided to make her the first
act.
assistant to get her
Yeah.
into acting. They couldn't do that. And they also, by the way, during this time, somebody figured out, oh shit, we have a nomination pending for her. So we got to pull that nomination because she's now disqualified. So there's all this kind of shit that went
Yeah.
on. It went on with her. Here's the bottom line. At the end of that, really, what really happened, what they screwed up is they did make her the interim, even though they didn't want to. They did make her the interim. After the 120 days, she was out, she was gone. Nope, the
You're talking
judges didn't
about
want her.
Haba still.
I'm talking about Haba. And
Yeah.
so now that issue is being litigated there in the District of New Jersey. A defendant in the District of New Jersey moved to disqualify Haba because of this. Look, the 120 days are gone. The Senate did not approve her, which they really couldn't since she was sitting in the interim position anyway. And the judges didn't want her. So she's gone. She's toast. And the U.S. Attorney's office is vacant. So well, not even that. She's disqualified from prosecuting anymore because she cannot act as prosecuting as the U.S. Attorney. And a judge of that district, really, Chief Judge Brand, but it's another issue. He's from Middle District of Pennsylvania. But anyway, he ruled that Elena Haba is disqualified, as is not just her, but everybody acting under her authority. Essentially, the
Hmm.
whole office
Yeah.
cannot continue to prosecute.
Yeah.
And so that's on an expedited appeal in front of the Third Circuit. I'm pretty sure it's going to get affirmed, and that she's gone. And the Trump administration cannot force feed
Yeah.
into the U.S. Attorney's office whoever they want. They cannot circumvent the advice
Right.
and consent of the Senate rule. That's what's going to happen here. Now, back to Lindsay Halligan. She has been placed in this position in an interim position, even though she's calling herself the U.S. Attorney, United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. She is not. Only somebody who has been put there with the advice and consent of the Senate can be. So
Yeah.
what she is she's a temporary placeholder, keeping the seat warm. She can only do that for the next less than 120 days now, and
You've got it.
that
You've got the date set at Feb 6, 26.
February 6th,
But
2026.
guess what? For
What?
for the Comey case,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of noise that he wants a trial and he wants a speedy trial, and if he's entitled to a speedy trial, and that's going to happen before February. It could likely happen
It
before.
could.
We're in September, so it would the issue might be moot as far as he's concerned, but it's still
I know he's screaming for, well, not screaming, that's probably I'm exaggerating here, but I know he said he wants a speedy trial. That as you well know, that's very rare. It is very rare that a federal case goes to trial within the 70 days under the speedy trial statute. Almost every defendant waives that, either because they're negotiating a plea or their
need more
counsel
time
needs
to
more time,
prepare.
yeah, to prepare for a
Yeah.
defense. And he may want to rush this through, but especially given this, what I call the Hobbit issue that's hanging over Lindsay Halligan, that she will no longer be the U.S. attorney, and there won't be a U.S. attorney. Let me put it that way. There will not be a U.S. attorney come February 6th, 2026, unless they put somebody who's Senate approved in there. And there's nobody that's Trump, the idiot, said, well, I'm nominating her too. And you can't do both at the same time.
Hmm.
It's right there in the statute, black and white. At any rate, I would hold out to make so that the trial does not begin until after February 6th. And on February 6th, if I'm Jim Comey, I'm filing the same motion that was filed up in the District of New Jersey to
Yes.
disqualify her in the whole damn office.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
he's gonna probably win on that.
I have a really hard time wrapping my head around what's in it for Lindsay Halligan. Halloran. Like,
Halligan. Yeah.
if you're the lawyer and you have these credible attorneys who have come before you and in that office saying there's no there, you know that ethically you're bound not to bring a case that you don't think you can get a conviction on. Um, at the end of the day, if she gets her hat handed to her in the way that many people are predicting, this is going to go really, really wrong for her. And
Yeah.
like, what does she? What must she be thinking? Why? I mean, she could lose her license over this. I mean, she could get her ticket punched, especially if she did anything shady. I don't know that she did, but if she did anything shady, and getting the indictment or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't understand, like, what
Well,
motivates somebody to step up and say, "I'll be the one to do this for you."
yeah, well, yeah, I guess Rudy Giuliani was not or some, some of the other attorneys
All of
that
them,
ended up,
they're
yeah,
not lawyers anymore.
yeah.
They got, and a lot of them got prosecuted.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a bet. I think it's a bet that, Trump is going to prevail here, the law be damned. And that's really what I see here more than, prosecute. To be honest, for me, where I see the danger signals has nothing to do with this prosecution of Comey, which, to be honest with you, I'm kind of on the fence about whether there may be evidence here or not. Or I'll put not that's not the right way. But it's not that I'm on the fence, but I am agnostic. That I would like to see a trial because I want to see what was going on here. But that's not the issue. That Trump is going after taking revenge on Comey. That's not what bothers me at all. What bothers me is what he's doing with the U.S. attorney's offices throughout the United States. It's not just Lindsey Halligan. It's not just Elena Haba. This is going on in the Central District of California, the District of Nevada, the District of New Mexico, the Eastern District of New York.
Yeah,
All of those districts, and there's going to be more, are getting force fed people that are not qualified for the job and that Trump is trying to circumvent the Senate. Again,
yeah,
these individuals can only hold that office with the advice and consent of the Senate. And Trump now thinks he doesn't need it. He's going to put his own people in there, whoever they are, as long as they're going to do his bidding against whoever he wants. That's the big problem here. Now, Comey might be the prototypical kind of canary in the mine shaft, or whatever, whatever the
coal.
metaphor is
Yeah,
or the
that's right.
analogy.
It's a
But
coal mine, and coal
yeah,
mines have mine
yeah,
shafts.
carry in the
Oh,
canary in the coal
that
mine.
canary is dead as dead can be.
So, but this is the bigger issue: is Lindsey Halligan. What is going to happen on February 6th, regardless of Comey? Maybe he gets acquitted or convicted by then, and this isn't an issue for him. This might
Yeah,
not be an issue for him, but it's going to be an issue for us
yeah,
on how are the courts, because this ultimately is going to end up at the Supreme Court. It's on a fast track to there, and I'll bet you another bottle of tequila that the court is going to hear oral argument on this issue sometime after March, between March and June. That's when it's going to get up to the Supreme Court, and or that's when they're going to have oral argument.
what issue is going to be up at the Supreme Court? You talking about the U.S. attorney
Yeah, about the U.S.
disqualification?
attorney,
Oh, gotcha,
about
gotcha, gotcha.
whether, yeah,
Yeah,
about Trump's
yeah,
attempt to usurp the Senate and putting people into the U.S. attorney's offices throughout the United States, whether his method, whatever method that is constitutional or not, or compliant with the law. And we already have at least one federal judge out there that says no, it's not, and that this person, Elena Haba, is disqualified because she does not hold the office legitimately. And what really bothersome to me is that Elena Haba's signature is still, or name is still on all the signature blocks of all the filings in every
yeah,
criminal case in the District of New Jersey
yeah.
today.
Right,
And that
right.
holding by that opinion by Chief Judge Brand came down in
Yeah,
mid-August, over a month ago,
yeah.
and she's
Well,
still claiming to be the acting U.S. attorney.
as as I've been listening to you and just going over this whole deal where we know Trump has directed this and sent this text to what's her name, Pam Bondi, it's
Yeah,
very clear. that he's exercising way too much authority and control over the DOJ. And
Oh
I
yeah,
was asking myself though, like, I'm thinking, did the framers fuck up? Did they not envision that putting the DOJ and the executive branch, which is there to enforce the law, that's the goal of the executive branch. Judicial
yeah,
branch is to interpret, legislative is to make the law, and executive to enforce law. So of course the DOJ is an
yeah,
executive branch
right.
function, but did they fuck up by not anticipating that a president would have this much power and authority? And the answer is not at all. And this is why the whole last half hour of conversation you had about disqualification of the U.S. attorney is it sounds like a bunch of like a little just us up our own ass, but it is actually fundamentally at the core of our constitutional system of checks and balances. The
Hmm.
framers did it right. They
Right,
said, yeah, that's a lot of power to do in the executive branch. So therefore, we are going to make sure that the Senate has a power of advice and consent to make sure that there's not just maniacs who are going to be put in place, who are going to do the bidding of the president no matter what, and not adhere to the law and not be faithful to the Constitution and just carry out whatever will and whim of the executive branch. The Congress was there to be a guardrail.
right,
And it cannot be lost on people that they have found the workaround, the president and his people, to say, don't give a fuck. I'm putting my people in there. And sorry, Lindsey Halligan is a fucking prime example of that. And I
yeah,
don't know if it's because it's late or I'm on my second glass of tequila, but the
mhm,
F-bombs are dropping, but I'm really pissed off about it because
yeah,
there was a Republican, he was no liberal, this guy who was the
hmm,
last U.S. attorney,
yeah,
but he was a lawyer and he understood the law and the Constitution and he said, I'm not doing that. And
right,
he got
right,
shit canned and they put this fucking person in there to say, yes, sir, whatever you say,
right,
sir.
right, right, right,
And that is an abomination. And
yeah,
I don't think people who aren't lawyers and who don't really get up in their own ass with the Constitution understand how serious that is, but it's really, really bad. And I wish more people would start screaming about it,
right.
especially in the fucking Senate. That's your
Yes. Well,
job,
yeah,
dude.
exactly. Yeah. Well,
Your job.
that's what shocks me are the Republican senators that are letting this happen or are too cowardly
It's your
to make a
whole
stand
job.
against this.
It's the
Yeah.
oath you took.
Yeah.
Do your job, do something. Somebody better do
Well,
something because
they're conceding power to Trump. And their job is to be a check on the executive in terms of who the executive is placing in very key, very powerful positions. Just like with judges, federal judges, they must have the advice and consent of the Senate. Trump just can't put whoever
yeah,
he wants.
yeah,
And that's going to be the next step, though. He complains a lot about judges.
yeah,
This judge is, and it
yeah,
doesn't matter the judge's political party. It's
yeah.
what the judge. I mean, he's been
But
upset
thank
with
God
Justice Cole.
he can't fire a judge. Thank God. You can impeach a judge, but that's
Well,
not easy.
that's I
And
could
guess
see
what?
I
The
could see
judges are only
him
hope
trying
at
to
this
fire
point.
a judge.
You could try. That would be interesting. But I'm saying
Yeah.
the judges are our only hope at this point because they do have some independence and they can't
But
be
what I
fired.
you're right. But what I mean is that I could just see Trump just saying, "Screw the Senate. They're not going to appoint my judges. They're not confirming my judges." And so he's just going to appoint them. So you're now the U.S. District Court judge for the district of so and so.
Well,
And
yeah. Oh
what
boy.
are we going to do? Because that's what's going on with the U.S. Attorney's Office. And as absurd as that sounds to
Yeah.
you with respect to the judges, it's equally absurd with what's going on with the U.S. Attorney's offices, and no one's screaming about it. Now we have six districts within the last month and a half that have gone this route.
Hmm.
How many more?
Yeah.
And they're not small districts.
Yeah. Well,
Forgive me for anybody from Wyoming. It's not just the District of Wyoming. We're talking about the Central District of California, probably the largest district in the country, and the Eastern
right.
District of Virginia, right across the street
Right.
from the capital.
And the court is at the last resort to shut this shit down at
Yes,
this point.
yes. Yeah.
And hopefully they understand. This is why I drink. These conversations. Hey, by the way, I don't call it the Department of Justice anymore. DOJ, you know what it stands for?
What?
Diligently obstructing justice. How do you like that?
That's good. That's
I don't
good.
know. It's the best
Clever.
I got. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's clever. It's the best I got after riding with Pancho Villa's horse and spending an hour
Yeah.
perseverating on the precarious position of our delicate union.
Yeah.
So, did we miss anything? I will say this, though, the one big takeaway that I really want people to be left with, if it's just one thing,
Yeah.
Trump's in the Epstein files. Do you
Yeah.
notice how every day there's something new to talk about is from,
Well, it's funny you say that. Right before the podcast, we started this podcast. He decided to release all the files on Amelia Earhart.
oh,
Where'd that come from?
are you a
you know, it,
Caddyshack fan?
yes.
Do you remember when Ronnie Dangerfield and they did the flyover there at the yacht club or whatever? And he's like, "Whoa, I almost got hit from Amelia Earhart." No. Anyway, they released it. What did it say?
I don't know.
She's
I just saw a
living
headline.
she's living on an island in Tahiti.
She's in the Epstein files. I don't know.
She's in
That's a
the
bad joke.
Epstein files.
Yeah,
She was
she has them.
flying she was flying the plane, the Lolita
There you
Express.
go. Yeah, that's something like that. Anything to distract. It's just,
Every
and
day it's something new.
yeah,
It's
every day
from
it's something new.
It's bombing boats in Venezuela
Yeah,
to Charlie Kirk to, this. Flood the zone with shit. That's what
yeah.
Steve
Well,
Bannon
that's Steve
says.
Bannon said. Yeah, that's right.
So,
But this is some serious shit. What's going on with the U.S. attorney's offices, and I think that's the biggest takeaway. There are several big takeaways I think from our talk tonight. This is not one of the big takeaways is Comey's indictment isn't a nothing burger. It is very serious,
hmm
and it's not going to just go away. But the other, and he's potentially looking at some serious time
Yeah.
if there is a there.
Yeah.
But the other big one, of course, there is a massive abuse of authority that
Yes.
really has nothing to do with Comey per se.
Yeah.
It's rather how Trump is putting U.S. attorneys in office. And
Right.
it's not just Lindsay Halligan. There are other DEI hires out there, which are very fucking dangerous.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly right. We have a constitutional order and it's out the window. And
Yeah,
bad things are happening
yeah,
and they
they
will
are.
continue to happen. So the good news is we'll be here to talk about it every single time, even if it's Friday night at 9:45 Eastern
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Well, have a lovely, peaceful sleep after this and a great weekend, and I can't wait to talk again.
Okay, Doug.
Thank you for
Thank you.
all the millions of people who tuned in live. I see we have one viewer, probably
Oh,
still
wow.
my dad. Peace out, Dad. We'll talk soon. Hope
Okay.
there's been lots of flooding, so hopefully everybody's
Oh,
dry here in Arizona.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Adios, brother.
Adios.
Vaya con Dios, as Pancho Villa might say.
Yes, that's right. Okay, man.
That
That
was
was
fun.
good.